Hello and good evening to you, all of you friends, and hello and good evening
yes.
to you too, Chris.
Hi, hey, Al.
So we hope you're all well. This, surprisingly enough, time goes by quick around here, especially with us studying Kabbalah. This is your 10th lesson, so this is your final lesson for this semester. So I must admit, although I wasn't here for like 5 weeks, however, I must admit this past 5 weeks have gone past pretty fast as well. Have gone by pretty fast as well. So having this 10th lesson is actually a good opportunity for all of us, simply because we now have an opportunity to recap everything. Okay, so what we're going to do is take all your questions about Kabbalah, about what we studied, anything not understood, everything. This is going to be a question and answer bang session. So we're going to nail everything and we're going to answer everything. So for the next semester, the second semester, you guys are going to be so skilled. Okay, you won't have any questions from this semester at all.
Who's going to the second semester? Raise your hand. Oh, wait. Are we going to have Zoom next semester?
No. I think afterwards. We'll see.
After. So we're going to see. Anyway, so I hope you guys are excited about that. Please, everyone, send in your reactions, your impressions, and definitely your questions. Otherwise, we're not going to have a lesson today.
Exactly. Now,
so
let's just have a quick recap of the topics. Now, the first thing you guys did, first of all, we had 2 lectures, didn't we? We had 2 introductory lectures with you guys before I went on a break, and on those 2 particular lessons, we talked about Kabbalah and we talked about how B'nai Baruch studies Kabbalah and what really Kabbalah is from our perspective, and where our sources come from, and who our teachers are, and what all our foundations and base really is. And then on top of that, when I was away, Chris and who
we had Leo one time.
Chris, Leo, and
we had Eran Shovich one time, maybe.
Eran Shovich. Okay, so you had a few lecturers, which is also good. Not to, it's not a disadvantage at all to have a few lecturers. Is, I think, very good as well. And with them, over the period of the first 5 weeks, you had the essence of the wisdom of Kabbalah, perception of reality, how we study Kabbalah, the books, and attracting the light that reforms a person, that changes a person. And then what did you guys have? From the love of others to the love of the Creator. Now that must have been a bit of an interesting topic for you in your first semester. And the 5th is the freedom of will. Very, very important topic. In fact, our whole advancement is based on this topic, the freedom of will. Because only if I use that correctly, I can think about moving forward with all the other principles. So that lesson is very, very important. So if there's anything you need to clarify about the freedom of will, today is a good day. Today's a good day to clarify everything, because the wondrous thing about this wisdom, maybe you haven't heard, it has an answer to every question. Okay, so you can ask anything you like. And then on the 6th lesson, it was a general recap, and I do believe you had a meal. Oh, that was with me. That was with me. We talked about having a meal, and we did a general recap because that was the first lesson when I got back. So we had a bit of a recap. That's cool. On the 7th lesson, what did we do? We did the soul of Adam Harishon and its breaking. And then we did none else besides him. And then we did dissemination. Am I correct?
I remember the dissemination one. Probably because that was last.
Great. So that was the last. So now, I hope I haven't missed out on anything. Because I haven't taken this semester from the beginning all the way, I might have been confused about a few topics. But since you've been here, let me know, all right? So if I missed out on anything or any topic, or if there's anything not clear. So let's today do an interactive lesson, okay? Where all of us do like a popcorn, what do we have? We have a popcorn method, and that's whatever question comes to your mind, you can just shoot it through and we'll solve it as best we can.
Now we did have some questions on Facebook, which we do regularly. And we try to get to those questions because I'm not sure everyone uses the forum. And if you do use the forum, I haven't really seen any feedback from that, so we don't know. But you guys, a lot of your times are sending questions from Facebook, and we want to try to answer those too. So if you don't send any questions in the meantime, then of course we can start from any of those questions, because we got about 10 or so.
Sure, let's do it.
And so
this will give us a bit of a warm up as well. So let's get smashing.
Right. We want to get into the zone. So here we don't have names or where we're from. We just have the questions themselves. So we have a friend. He says, I want an explanation on the relationship of Kabbalah with Messiah, Yeshua, and the view of Kabbalah with the sacrificed blood of the Messiah. Yes, I've had this conversation as well. And the message of the new creation in the Messiah, and the relationship with the teaching of the tenets of Kabbalah. So basically,
we have teachings of the what Kabbalah?
The tenets. Like we have someone coming from a more of a Christian background.
Okay. Well, the best thing to do when you start to study Kabbalah is to start with a clean plate. Okay, because everything you learn in religion is absolutely irrelevant. Okay, when it comes to Kabbalah, because religion is like I don't know how to say it in English. It's like, well, let's just say religion is like giving people manners. Okay, but it's not spirituality. Religion was designed to make people live in a more restrained way, so they don't go nuts. Okay. However, in the 21st century, as you can see, religion is not strong enough to really put a leash on anyone's ego. So this is why humanity is going psycho. Okay? So religions were invented in the first place to make sure that societies had a relatively calm, reasonable way of living. And this is why they had all these rules. Don't kill each other, don't rape each other, don't steal from each other, don't lie to each other. Just be good kids, for crying out loud.
Or else, kind of thing.
Exactly. Or else, because life's already too short, at least let's have a peaceful life here. Okay, that was the whole idea of religion.
It worked for a while.
Even though they did set it up with a good intention to make it work, you'll see that, in thousands of years of human history that we've only had peace for about 250 years. So despite the fact that they've imposed religions, they've tried to calm us down, and with all the wars and things that we have had in the past, it hasn't worked, and it won't work either. And this is why we're in this mess. And we're supposed to be in this mess, okay? Being in this mess is not the fault of any religion, because being in a mess as a society globally is actually a sign of the coming of the Messiah, which you just asked about. Now, in religions, Messiah is some guy who comes, I don't know where from. Sometimes in the books it goes as a guy coming from the north, dressed all up in white, with white beard and stuff, coming on a white donkey. Now, I don't think he'll be very welcome on the highway in the 21st century. Someone will probably hit him and knock him over and kill him. And the thing with the Messiah is that the Messiah is actually inside a person. All right, so nobody's coming. Don't wait for anyone. Messiah is the inclination of a person who's looking for the meaning of life. And that's called Messiah. So everybody has their own personal Messiah inside themselves. All right, and a lot of people like to call themselves the Messiah because they have this inclination to rule other people, like kings. So don't go for that kind of stuff. It's really not working in the 21st century. Messiah means that I have a dot in the heart, which is seeking the meaning of life, i.e. the truth, or in other words, the Creator himself. Okay? And the only way to get to the Creator himself is for me to grow that inner inclination in me called Messiah. Messiah comes from the word Mashiach. Okay, Mashiach means Messiah. It comes from the word limshoch in Hebrew. And limshoch means to pull. And the name Moshe, which is Moses, also comes from that word limshoch, okay, to pull. So when that person has this inclination inside of him, that inclination in him is actually called Moses. So all of us who have a dot in the heart has this inclination called Moses, Moshe, the Mashiach, Messiah. Okay? And that's what the Messiah is. Now, with respect to the Christian religion, if you want to study Kabbalah, you got to have a clean slate with respect to everything that was taught. Doesn't matter what religion you were in, even if you're Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, or whatever religion you're in. There are 4,200 religions if you ask Google. So if you want to study Kabbalah, you got to kind of like put them on the shelf and start with a fresh outlook. Because Kabbalah has nothing to do with any religion. It comes from Adam. And Adam had no religion. Neither did many of the Kabbalists that came after him. Religions only started after the destruction of the Second Temple, which is about just over 2,000 years ago. And in fact, Christianity and Islam followed afterwards, and that's how religion developed. So Kabbalah, which is spirituality in our terms, has nothing to do with any religion at all. So it's best if you keep it clean, otherwise you just get yourself confused. What else?
Well, we have some friends, Paradzi, you know, and also Miriam from Iran, who's live in Turkey. They want to know more about the Sefirot.
Now you're talking my language, because I love that stuff.
He does.
Okay, now, the Sefirot. Sefirot comes from the word sapphire, okay? It's a jewel and it reflects light. And basically, what we have in the whole of creation are two forces. One is the creator. Oops, let me just do something a bit better. Okay. One is the creator, and he's called Keter. And the other one is called the creature, and he's called Malchut. Okay? So Keter is called the creator, and Malchut is the creature. Now, there are only two forces. Now, when things get a little complicated, break it down to exactly what I'm talking about right now. Approach with this kind of outlook. There's the creator and there is me. And in between us, we have a relationship. And all the other 8 Sefirot is actually representing our relationship. How all types of relationships we have with the Creator. And those relationships are summarized as the 10 Sefirot. So the Kabbalists say, well, there's Keter, there's Chochmah, Bina, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. My mind's gone to Hebrew there. Just a sec. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yesod and Malchut. Okay? These are the names that are given to the impressions that we have in the relationship between us and the Creator. All right? So all of these things is how the Creator relates to us. Okay? And all the combinations between them as well. So that's what the 10 Sefirot are all about. Me, the Creator, and the relationship we have, and all the impressions, the feelings, the thoughts, the sensations that we go through are described in Sefirot. Because it means a reflection of the light. You see, the Creator reacts, doesn't react, he's kind of like relating to us, okay? And towards the relationship that he has to us, what we have is a reaction back. That's why in life everything has a equal opposite counter reaction, laws of nature. So same in spirituality as well. So when the Creator is kind of working with us, working towards raising us, developing us, what we do is we react. So that relationship between us is a matter of give and take, and all the sensations that are inside of that relationship are described as the 10 Sefirot. Now this 10 Sefirot is a template. Therefore, in every relationship, in every relating point between me and the Creator, these details are included. Okay, so there's a general structure called the 10 Sefirot, and in every desire, in every thought, in every action that I do, have, feel, whatever I go through, there are also 10 Sefirot. So all of the details are actually part of the general template. Okay, and that's what the Sefirot really are. Not very complicated, is it? Just need to get our heads around it, that's all.
You can start complicating it the more you start philosophizing about it and having your own, putting your own opinion, your own spin, and wanting it to mean something else, which happens to a lot of people, especially when you start reading some of the books that talk about Sefirot. And if you don't stick to this very basic thing, Keter, Malchut, and the connection is the relation between the two, you're going to be lost. So there's a couple of questions. How am I supposed to work with this? What is this person supposed to do with
Well,
this
we
information?
can't work with it. You can't work with it simply because you can't see the Creator at the moment. Okay, we don't feel the Creator at the moment. We just feel ourselves in this life, in this body. And actually, there's only two things we feel in life. We either feel good or bad. That's it. You know, we don't have any other sensations. So I either feel good or I feel bad, or that's it. Okay, so getting into the sensation of the details, the feelings and the thoughts that exist in spirituality refer to our relationship with the Creator one-on-one. So until I'm there, there's nothing really to work with these. However, you might be asking, well, why did the Kabbalists write about them? Well, I do believe that was the third lesson. Why would they write to us about spiritual worlds, spiritual sensations, when we have absolutely no sensation of them? Because when we study and when we desire to live inside what they're talking about, that attracts a certain power called the light. Okay? And the light brings us the feelings, the thoughts, the understandings, the sensations that a person goes through in his spiritual advancement. This is why they wrote to us about spirituality. So we can want to be in that spirituality, and by wanting to be in it, we can attract that force that exists in nature that can grow us spiritually. Yep.
So, just before we get off the topic, I'm not sure if you guys are going to send any more questions in, but we might as well take care of this one. Pradzi again. We mentioned religion and Christianity. And so he's asking, where do we come from? And I wanted to add before you got off the topic, it wasn't even called Kabbalah whenever Adam discovered it. Why would he call it Kabbalah? Why would it be considered anything else besides I just discovered the forces of nature and how they act on me? So at that point, you could say that is essentially the first science. There was no science. There was no developing chemistry or physics or Isaac Newton. We're talking about 6,000 years ago. So a person who had an inclination to want to understand the meaning of his life, and he wanted to understand the deeper, the forces that made Mother Nature, I guess maybe you could say, or what spun everything around in his world. You have a small inclination to that. It was revealed to him. And he wanted to share that with people, and you want to share that science, and you want to expand it, and you want to investigate it deeper. And it wasn't called Kabbalah, guys. I just discovered the wisdom of Kabbalah. It was later on given that name after it really was broken down into science, and then you start getting from the Ari, the 10 Sefirot, and start really breaking that down. But explain a little bit more. Who created religion? Where did this come from? Why is it confusing us so much all the time?
Look, humanity hasn't really developed that urge to discover the meaning of life. We're a desire to receive. In life, we want to get pleasure. That's our nature. And when we look at life, we understand that people are born, and there comes a day when they die. So what we want to do is, well, there's nothing we can do. We're all going to end up dead. So we think, hey, why don't I make the best of life? Okay, so that's a nice slogan that we hear all the time. Make the best of life. Well, what can you make the best of here, really? Okay, so we've come to such a state in humanity that in the past, people weren't really bothered about the meaning of life. They just took life as it is. But now they're asking, more and more people are asking, And because more and more people are asking, we're teaching. Okay? So religions in the old days, like I said, came about simply because human nature is so, as you can see in life, it's gross, it's sick, it's violent, it's just completely self-centered. Our nature doesn't care about anyone else except itself. And we are happy to kill, steal, rape, and even justify ourselves and say, you know what, even though I killed him, or I raped and I stole and I did all kinds of things, I'm actually right in doing so. That's how crazy and nutty our nature is. So Kabbalists knew that in history, throughout time, our ego was going to develop. So they understood that over time, okay, this is the axis of time, they understood that our egoism was just going to keep growing. And when our ego was small, religion was okay. Because, you know, it was okay. We could just get along well with each other. And after we died, we had the expectation of going to heaven. Our ego kind of, accepted that. It was okay. And then our ego started to grow a bit more. And then we wanted to get rich all of a sudden. You know, people wanted to become rich. People wanted to have power. Okay? People wanted to rule others. They wanted to gain more, they wanted to rule more, and then people wanted to discover. They wanted to know things. Okay? And finally, we came to such a point in human development, the 21st century, that we have absolutely no idea about life. Science hasn't been able to discover the meaning of life, and they won't be able to, even if they try for another 1,000 years. Humanity, the rest of humanity is just sick. Okay? Everybody's depressed. Everybody's on Prozac now. Soon you're going to get drugs legally. Before they were all illegal, and pretty soon, I guess, in 2017, I think, America already has laws coming out where you can actually buy drugs that were illegal before are going to be just legal because people are depressed and they're getting violent. They don't know what to do with themselves. So they say, well, at least let's make drugs legal so they can just calm themselves and sit down on their sofa and chill. Okay? That's not going to help much either. However, this is what they think is going to help. So humanity is developing egoism over the span of time. Has brought us to despair. But until we got to despair, religion was okay. Okay? It was accepted and people were okay with it, and it was part of education. Until the era of science. Okay? Until science began to develop in Renaissance in Italy. And they said, you know what is this religion? It's just nonsense. Okay? So a group of people decided that religion was nonsense, meaning that it didn't make any sense. It has no foundation. Nothing. Okay? You were just expected to believe something that somebody said. How crazy is that, they said. Very crazy. So they said, you know what, we're going to discover the laws of nature and develop and try to understand life. So, still some people develop religion, religiously. Okay, so there's religion, and there's now science. Now we're at a state where both of them are in despair. Okay, you see religious people are also in despair, and science is also in despair because science hasn't discovered any meaning in life either. They haven't discovered any secrets, nothing at all. And religion, everybody understand, is just, how do they say it in Australia? Hogwash. Okay? Nothing to base itself on. And so both parts of society have gone now completely haywire. Okay? No basis, no foundation, I think. And this is actually a good thing. Because when we discover the depth and hit rock bottom of lies and basically falsehood, then we can start seeking the truth. And this is what's happening in humanity. So humanity hit rock bottom. We're now at an understanding that nothing in life really works. Our nature is absolutely disgusting. There's nothing to look forward to either. So now we can start looking for real meaning in life. And because there are people looking, like I said, the Kabbalists prepared the relevant material for us to study from. So Kabbalah has got nothing to do with religion, and it has nothing to do with the regular approach to life. It's a very special science for people who have a dot in the heart. So when a person has a dot in the heart and is asking, then he starts to study Kabbalah. Okay, what was the question again?
The purpose. Well, where did it come from?
Yeah, where it came from. So this is where it came from. From Adam, okay? Like Chris said, it developed because he was the first guy who was in despair, actually. I guess he was the first guy in depression. Adam was the first depressed guy. Unfortunately, they hadn't invented Prozac back then, which is actually a fortunate thing, otherwise he might never have asked the meaning of life. Okay, so he asked about the meaning of life, and he discovered it, and he taught others, and this is why we do dissemination as well. Why? Because if you attain this science, then anybody who wants to learn, you are obliged to teach them. This is why dissemination is important, and this is why we teach you as well. Why? Because you have an interest in it. When you have an interest in it, it means that possibility is that you have a dot in the heart that has awakened, and that it is your time to come to the meaning of life. Under such circumstances, we are obliged and also privileged and very happy as well to assist and teach in any way we can.
That really gives you also, when you have the point in the heart that awakens, it gives you. I don't want to kind of fill up your heads and make your ego feel bigger and stronger than everybody else, but it's basically it's an awakening from above, we can say. Because where did it come from? What did you choose to all of a sudden find Kabbalah? No. You now have the opportunity. It's kind of like a step stool to look down a little bit on your past life, everything that you went through, and have a little bit more of an understanding. Now, of course, throughout the years of studying Kabbalah, it becomes much more clear everything that you went through, and you can start really seeing the development of a person and understanding the development of a person from an upper level, kind of how a parent would teach a child, and when the child grows up, he understands why his parents behaved with him a certain way. It's the same with the evolution of humanity. Religion was simply a necessary stepping stone from one development type of development in the ego to the next type of development in the ego. One type of development in the ego was that we wanted to give, say in this case in Christianity or in every religion, was to do good, and by giving to receive. And there's also, you have the four states of receiving to receive, giving to receive, giving in order to receiving in order to give, and then giving in order to give as well. So yeah, those four states also break down in humanity, and religion simply represents one of those states. I think I mentioned also in the last lesson the book about what was the book? I can't remember. The one where you talked about Abraham and how he was an idol worshiper and he made the idols. Yes, from altruism, yes, to that. It also explains this very well too, in a very easy to understand language. So I think that also answers Simone's from Germany's questions. Now, people nowadays ask the purpose of my life, but they don't necessarily come to Kabbalah.
They don't need to, guys. We need to understand that we need to go around and you know, I can't just ask the meaning of life and come straight to Kabbalah. Okay, I have to take a little walk in the park. Okay, it means I have to go through all kinds of methods, all kinds of things. You know, we all came to Kabbalah through other methods as well. None of us just all of a sudden came to Kabbalah because we now wanted to know the meaning of life. We looked around, all of us did research. We went into mysticism, we went into spirituality, I don't know, meditation, religion. All of us went through the loop. And if we hadn't gone through all that stuff and then come to Kabbalah, we would have had an issue. So the Creator is very smart. He takes us by the hand and takes us through all kinds of places, and he shows us that we're not satisfied there. And after he takes us to all these places, he brings us to Kabbalah, and he says, well, take this, try this out. Now, if a person feels good when studying this method, then it means this is the right place for him, because you have the measurement tool that you have, if this is right for you or not. A lot of people ask this question, is this method right for me? You have to check if your heart feels good about studying this. If it doesn't, then it's not the right place for you. If you feel right about it, okay, then you should carry on. The critical thing here is this. Once you make a decision to get this done, that decision needs to be strong, and I'll tell you why. It's like getting anything done in life. Let's say I wanted to be a doctor. But you know what? Halfway down the line, I decide, you know what? I just changed my mind, become a lawyer. And then I go into law school, and then I think, oh, you know what? I might just be an engineer. This is a bit boring. And then I go into engineering, and I think, oh my God, there's so much maths in this. I can't do all this maths. Let me study art. So you see, if you keep jumping from one place to another, in life, you get nothing done. So the Kabbalists are saying the best measurement tool is this. When you first discover this science, and you're reading it and you're studying and you feel good, you feel like, yes, this is what I've been looking for, then that is the sensation that you need to remember. And based on that, you make a decision whether you want to study or not. Now, once you decide, freedom of will starts then. Otherwise, it won't. What does freedom of will mean? Well, basically, what do we do in life? We do things that make us feel good, or if we suffer from something, we run away from it. This is how our nature works. But when we're studying Kabbalah, what happens is this. Because I want to discover, on the one hand, the truth, but on the other hand, my desire to receive works on pleasure and pain, I'm left in a bit of a dilemma. You see, on the one hand, I want to discover the truth, but the truth is mostly ugly, and that makes me feel bad. So on the one hand, truth is bad, and I feel bad, but how am I going to stay on the path? Okay? Well, that's where the work really begins. Okay? When you start to work kind of in contradiction to your nature. This is why making a decision to study is very important. Okay? If you want to. If you decide to, then you need to be in this framework, so you can always be in this dilemma of choosing the right thing. Otherwise, you won't develop. The whole idea of developing in spirituality is not because I want to feel good or bad, it's because I want to discover the truth. So what I feel afterwards becomes irrelevant. And as you develop in Kabbalah, you start to live above your feelings. So your animate life, that's completely dictated by feeling good or bad, kind of becomes down there at the bottom, where it's like, it's still important, okay, because we're using it to get impressions from life, but it's like, it's not controlling you. You are controlling it. And you begin to start floating on top of the desire, rather than being like swamped in it. Okay? So these kind of spiritual sensations you can only get when you're putting some serious backbone into the study after you made the decision to study. What else?
So, if we're talking about free will, then Paradze from Zimbabwe saying, so how is it that we have free will when the Creator has predestined everything? If I have free will, then how can I safeguard that I stay on the correct path that you're talking about?
Great. Now that's the kind of question I like. Now listen, it's very important. The Creator created us as a desire to receive pleasure. This is the way we work. Our nature works on pleasure and pain. Pleasure, pain. So in life, I'm either happy, like I just said a minute ago, or I'm sad. Okay? So the Creator says now, on top of this, if you have a dot in the heart, He says, listen, what's the meaning of your life? Don't you want to discover this? Because life here doesn't count for much. It's at the end of the day a big minus. You're in a big deficit. Why? We talked about it. Whatever I want in life, the moment I get it, the pleasure cancels the desire. So if I want to eat something, let's say I'm really hungry, after a few bites, I've already lost the taste in the food, even though I'm eating my favorite food. Okay, so let's say I want to be rich, okay? Let's say I have $100 million in the bank. Tomorrow, I'm unhappy because I want 200 million. Okay? So this is how our desire to receive works. So once we understand that this is a pathetic way to live, we can now say to ourselves, well, wait a minute, what are we really living for in life? Now, only a person who has a dot in the heart, who's really asking the question, why am I living, will come to the wisdom of Kabbalah, and then he's left in this point of free choice. Now, you said, what if there's none else besides him and he's doing everything? Well, that's all well done and said, Pratzi. But you don't see him and you don't know that. That's just somebody wrote in a book. And if you believe what somebody wrote in a book without really living what's written in the book, then what happens? You become a religious guy. Okay? Because that's what religion is, isn't it? They believe what other people say and they take it as truth. And then you got religion. Well, Kabbalah is not a religion. In Kabbalah, we don't actually believe in anything. We attain everything. But until we attain it, it's all la la land. Okay? So freedom of choice is exactly for people like us who are out there, who are not in spirituality. Okay, so we're not in spirituality. Spirituality is out there somewhere. Okay? We're not there. We're here. So now I have to make a choice every day. What am I going to choose? What's going to be more important for me? My spirituality or my corporeality?
This goes back to what you were saying a second ago about the truth. This is an important concept that always brings us back to the same thing. Sweet and bitter, or true and false. And right now we're stuck in sweet and bitter. We always making this calculation based on what's sweet and what's bitter. I'm going to do it because it's sweet and I want to get away from the bitter. But really inside of us, and this is the root in our nature, this is what's pulling us. This is the Moshe, this is the Moshiach inside of us that is constantly drawn to this truth. And eventually what becomes more important to us, even though it's completely against our nature, is attaining that truth.
What else have we got there, Chris?
Well, Andre from South Africa, he wants to know, as we progress through these lessons, will we eventually be asked to convert to Judaism and move to Israel in order to continue with a correction? Not saying I won't. I just want to make sure, because I might need to get my visa in order.
Okay, guys, listen, let me just tell you the whole truth, nothing but the truth, the blunt truth, okay? But don't get shocked. I'm actually a Muslim, and I'm teaching you guys Kabbalah. Okay? Why? Because it doesn't have anything to do with religion. This has something to do with a person's inclination inside here. All right. So nobody's going to ask you to change religion. Changing religion is like changing your donkey with a cow. Okay? So one day you were praying in that building and you decided that's not a very nice building. I think I'll go and pray in that building. Okay? What changed? The buildings changed, but you didn't. And spirituality means you got to change. Okay? So you don't have to convert your religion, okay? Because it's not going to do you any good, trust me. All right? And what you need to do, though, is take all the friends in the group that we're studying with, like your brothers and family, okay? Just like Chris, he's from Texas, and like Johnny and Hezi in the technical room, and all the friends in Bnei Baruch, okay? We're all one big family, all right? We take all of each other, regardless of all our backgrounds, we have one thing in common. And that common thing is our dot in the heart. And because we have that common dot in the heart, that common inclination, we're all called a family. Okay? Because what is a family? What are a people? We are called the people, aren't we? So all of us together with the dots in the heart are called people. The real people of Israel are actually those people who have a dot in the heart. When the books are talking about Israel and the people of Israel, they're not talking about people according to their passports or their national identity cards. They're talking about the inclination in them. So these people have a dot in the heart and who come together in order to discover the Creator between them, which is called the attribute of love and bestowal, which you learned in your 4th lesson. In order to discover the Creator, they come and they study together and they want to attain this condition together. They're called the people of Israel. The people of Israel have only one religion, and that's Kabbalah. Okay? So all the corporeal religions, you can keep them. It's not an obstacle. It's not a problem. But amongst us, there's only one religion, and that's love and bestowal. Because those two attributes come to us from the Creator, our Father in the sky, as they say. Okay? Anything else?
That's true. I think Baal Salam said.
He did say Baal Salam said.
He did. He said that anyone who has an inclination to the wisdom of Kabbalah also has this drawing to the state of Israel. We see that with a lot of our friends. They simply want to be here. Now, if you want to be here, you can come visit for our Congress. We do have a Congress in February, very special, February 21st. I think we finally do have... Guys, Hezi, by the way, I'll probably mention this again, so if you can find the banner or something and we can get the location for where to find out more information about the Congress. If you guys do want to come to Israel, then that will be something very special. Everyone from around the world. This is the biggest Congress that we have, and we try to have it once a year. And it's very, 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 very special, especially for your first time Congress and for beginning students. It's something, I mean, I don't know. Everyone has their own first time experience, and it's something very special because you're talking about one religion. We're talking about one family, and you really do it. You see, there's such a diverse group of people, and all of them are coming together under one meaning, under one something that's important to all of them, and such an inner way, and it's really felt. So we'll see if we can get you more details about that if you're interested. So Jeff from London says, "Is the point in the heart a symbol of the soul in its embryonic state?"
It's not an embryo yet. It's just an inclination. Embryo means... It's a good question, actually. Embryo means when I join two forces together, just like in the womb. It's just like in the womb, yeah? Where a drop of sperm bonds with that egg, and together they make that embryo, okay? So the dot in the heart right now is just a little inclination. It's not really in there, becoming an embryo. Embryo means that I start to study, and towards the environment that I'm studying in, I begin to pacify myself. And that's what actually an embryo does in the mother's womb. It pacifies itself so the mother's body can actually consider the baby like part of its own, and can actually grow it to become eligible to be born to this world. So for us, the same thing is with environment, which is why the freedom of will is very important. Because I have to always make decisions where I can grow inside that environment like an embryo. And that's where freedom of will comes to play. So all these things that we're learning in the first semester, we need to kind of like put them together as foundation blocks so that we can add to our study in the future, okay? And we should actually start working with them now. So if you come to the environment with your dot in the heart and you pacify yourself and you want to grow in there spiritually, then we can talk about growing like an embryo.
And actually, you can see even in our world, when you talk about the sperm and the egg meeting, you have millions of those competing, and eventually, and even then, sometimes it doesn't happen, and it's just a battle, constantly going, and one eventually makes it. And that's it comes from the upper roots of what's actually happening with our spiritual development. This is why attaining the first state of spirituality is the most difficult, because you're coming from completely opposite nature to, it's really a miracle. It's called a miracle whenever you are able to attain this quality of bestowal in the end. That finally you have one nature on the other hand and the opposite on the other side, and they come together and meet. Which is why it's the most difficult, because you're coming from out of nowhere, you're coming from the dark. Which is why you need patience, which also should be another topic as well. So Omrid and someone else is without a name is saying, so we talked about the fact that Kabbalah is something that you can study and you want to apply it to everyday life. So how can you apply Kabbalah to everyday life?
Very easy. First of all, if I know one principle, it's already a blessing, and that principle is something I mentioned a minute ago. If every time I get what I want, the pleasure and the desire are going to cancel each other out, and I'm going to feel once again empty, what's the point of running after anything? That knowledge is already taking you like a few hundred years ahead of humanity. Consciously, you begin to understand that trying to fulfill yourself with the desires of this world is just not going to happen. It's impossible, actually. There is no way you can fulfill yourself in this world and be happy. No way. So this will bring people to ask, well, how can I be happy? Why will they want to ask that question? Because our nature is a desire to be happy. So they will look for how to be happy. And therefore, they'll come to that, they'll come to look, search, and find, and then realize the meaning of life, the purpose of life. So already studying will bring you knowledge, it'll bring you wisdom. And then you'll begin to apply that in your day-to-day life. You'll stop chasing silly things like children go around chasing toys. You'll begin to understand that, you know what, that's just like for kids. Okay? So in life you see 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old people who still think like 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old children. So you begin to live above those states. So that's already a huge application.
There's a really great example. I remember Michael Leitman, our Rav, also gives an example sometimes of how a father, is talking with the son and is saying, when you grow up and when you achieve this, I'll get you the car. I'll get you the car that you want. And the car that the kid wants is just a little plastic toy car. And then of course when he grows up and he matures, he's actually ready to receive the real automobile, the real thing that happens. So we're talking about we're talking about this development when you first come to study Kabbalah and you have all these imaginations and everything you can imagine what spirituality is, and then and your ego is actually being satisfied by all this knowledge and learning something about new, and you feel really, you feel really smart about the world, and then eventually you actually grow up and you see that it has to do about completely eventually nullifying yourself, figuring out what the will to receive is, and want to accept the upper nature, which is the complete opposite of your nature. So regarding the Congress, guys, I see that you're asking about it. We don't have the details yet, unfortunately. There's no banner for it yet. It is in February, so it's a bit away. But there's a lot of talk about it. We're already starting preparations. But just know that the dates are February 21st to the 23rd. If you want to start working on that, because if you're in a country where you need to start getting your visa worked out, maybe they won't allow you to come to Israel, because that's been an issue in the past, then you may want to start doing that. You may want to start dealing with that now. So then again, Omid from Iran is following up, and he says, so if Kabbalah is a science, how Omid from Iran.
From where?
Iran.
Good.
He says, if Kabbalah is a science, how can we test it?
Well, you test it on yourself. You guys learned in your second lesson the perception of reality. Okay? Every one of us perceives reality according to his own attributes. So none of us perceive the same thing. We might see the same things in life, but what we feel, what we sense from them, the sensations we get from them are different. So, for example, we both like chocolate. We both say we love chocolate, but actually what you taste from chocolate and what I taste from chocolate are two different things. Okay? Even though we identify them as sweet and nice and so on. The measure of sweetness and taste and nice will be different for you and different for me. So perception of reality is different for everyone. So, however, how are we going to kind of measure that? Well, this is why we've got the books. Okay? So the Kabbalists write to us very specifically what we should feel as we advance in spirituality. And the reason they write that to us is actually to help us out. Why? Because I can discover things by trial and error and waste time and suffer quite a bit. Or I can say to myself, well, wait a minute. Let me take some recommendation, like I take from my dad. Okay, when I was a kid, he used to recommend things. So I said, okay, I'll do that because Daddy said that's good to do. And then I saw he was right. Okay, so what we do now is we take the advice of Kabbalists and we test it out. So, well, I'm going to do what he says, not because I believe him, but I want to study and I want to see if this is how it is. Okay, so we take their recommendations, and if you apply it correctly, you will see that what the Kabbalists wrote become the things you live. Then you develop faith in the sages. Okay, so you begin to develop faith in your teacher. Why? Because he told me what I was going to go through. He was like a guide to me. So beyond that, then what happens is you begin to pacify yourself. It means you pacify the way you think, and take upon yourself the way your teacher thinks, how he takes care of stuff. Obviously, we're talking about spirituality, right? We're not talking about stuff they do in religion. Spirituality means to come to the love of others in order to come to the love of the Creator. So everything must be in that direction. Okay?
Right. All of our the whole study is basically just an inner examination, because we come here not really understanding anything. We're just drawn by the pleasure, like you say all the time, of, okay, I want to fill up. This world isn't filling me up anymore. I want to be filled up with more things, more knowledge, more understanding, and it eventually turns into this self-scrutiny, this inner scrutiny of what is my nature. And then when you understand what your nature is, and your reaction to that, if you're under the right environment, then you understand how to handle this recognition of your own nature, and you see what it is that you need to do. And all of this is considered the science. It's simply looking at yourself, listening to the guides, listening to the books, being in the right environment, and you're simply in this lab constantly of understanding what your attitude is to this world. and adjusting your attitude. It's truly a science. But of course, we're telling you this now, just like our Rav told us, and you just have to take it and work with it the same way we have. So Tatiana from Florida says, so then our intentions and our desires are what we need to change in us. Also, what's the difference between intention and desire? Are we changing our intention, or are we changing our desire? What's going on?
The desire to receive will not change, ever. Okay, I think we've done this in a topic before. You must understand that you do not need to worry about your desire to receive. It will never change. We are always going to be a desire to receive pleasure. This will never change. This will always be this way. Because the Creator wants to give us pleasure. Okay? The only thing we need to do is this. Right now, I want to get pleasure for my personal benefit. How am I going to get what the Creator wants in order to bestow to Him? So I can bestow to the Creator. Okay, so kind of make this loop. So the only thing I need to change is actually the intention. But you're right, sometimes we say we need to change our desire to receive. It means that I need to change the intention to receive for myself. Okay, this desire to receive will never change. We were created as a desire to receive pleasure. It will always be like that. We just need to change the intention, so we use our desire to bestow to the Creator instead of abusing the Creator. Yeah.
So I believe this is Pradze. He's asking, I exist in the corporeal life, yet I'm studying the teaching of Kabbalah, which is talking about spirituality. How then do we build the bridge to spirituality? I know that we have to develop the sense. So then is it something that I need to feel physically? Then he adds and he says, do we have a living Kabbalist that has attained spirituality?
I don't know. A Kabbalist never says. In fact, many of them are known to have even hidden the fact that they were Kabbalists. Look, spirituality starts on a gut feeling. And that's why it's called a dot in the heart. It's just a feeling. It's an urge. It's not something really logical in your mind. It's just this thing that's, inclination. It's just a gut feeling. Now, how you begin to develop from corporeality to spirituality is the whole idea of studying, which is the third lesson, the studying of the books, in order to attract the light that reforms. Now, the light that reforms, the surrounding light, the light of the Creator, might all sound a little airy-fairy. But that's just in the beginning. Why? Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is, regardless of where you're going to end up, you first start in corporeality with everything in life. Even when we're kids, right? We're born in corporeality and we have absolutely no idea as babies what this world is about. In fact, if we knew what was going to happen to us in this life, we'd probably never want to come out into this world because it's horrific. Okay? So, this is what happens. As you study Kabbalah inside the group, okay? It's called an environment. When you begin to put yourself into this environment, the environment begins to influence you. It will begin to influence you and you start to get inner impressions. So we study from the books. Okay, study from the books, authentic Kabbalah books, obviously. We're not studying from any Tom, Dick and Harry. We got the books. Now we have the Rav that's teaching us the real meaning of what's in the books. And then we have the friends, which we now can practice what we learned from the Rav that taught us from the authentic books. So it's very easy, isn't it? 1 + 1 + 1 equals spirituality. So we're developing our dot in the heart by getting these feelings, sensations, and all these inner impressions about our nature, about ourselves, inside this special environment. And because this environment is aimed at discovering the Creator, what happens is the Creator kind of influences us back. Because we want to reach to Him, we want to get to Him, that's our direction. He reacts to that because that's also what He wants. So inside this special environment, which is a spiritual environment, we begin to get impressions that can be named spiritual, even though we're not completely in spirituality yet. Because there are normally things that I wouldn't feel if I wasn't studying. Okay? And towards those little sensations, we begin to grow, and we begin to connect to the light, but only through the environment. Nobody can really have a direct relationship with the Creator. Although we all like to think we'd like to have one, but that's not the idea. The idea of the whole of creation is to use the whole of creation as a knowledge base and as an interaction platform to understand the Creator, so I can actually build myself to be like Him by understanding His actions in this reality. That's why we need a laboratory, just like we would for any experiment in science. And that's where I stick my head into. Okay? Through that environment I can develop. And then you will get to feel things that normal people out there on the street have no idea about. Why? Because that's the influence of the light. Now, if you go and try to explain that to someone out on the street, they'll think you're mad. Okay? This is why this wisdom is for a group of people who have a special inclination called the dot in the heart. Because when you go through these feelings, your dot in the heart is okay with it. But your corporeality is so not okay with it. Okay? That's how you begin to kind of reconcile two ends of reality inside you. The spiritual part and the corporeal part. Yeah.
So Paradzi again, and also Bright from Ghana supports him in his question, and it seems to be an interesting conflict. You're going to like it. So reincarnation. The world population is forever increasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we speak of reincarnation back into this earth to correct ourselves. How do we explain the population increment?
Look, I have this body, right? And when I was young, okay, I didn't have so much facial hair. Okay? Now, I have a lot of facial hair, but my hair on my head is falling out. But it's still one body, right? So I used to have a lot of, let's say, hair. Now I'm bald. But am I dead? I'm not dead. I'm just kind of going through a phase of development, let's say. I'm just giving a corporeal example. The soul is not a number. It's not parts of a number.
It's not 600,000? What was the 600,000 part?
Don't confuse people.
No, this is what Bright asked.
Wrote?
This is what Bright asked. Bright's asking about the
600,000?
Well, Adam Rishon, 600,000 souls, and then we're remaining.
You didn't tell me the whole question. Ask the whole question.
Oh, well, so this one also. So Bright says, follow up to Paradzi's question, which I asked. I'm finding it difficult to understand the concept of reincarnation since population is forever increasing. Meanwhile, the soul of Adam Rishon broke into 600,000 souls. So where's the remaining souls from that first one? Or what's going on? Is the Creator still creating new souls?
There's not even 600,000. There is just one soul, guys. Okay? Guys, come on, you're breaking my heart. I must have not taught you well. There is only the Creator. As we go back to scratch, go back to the drawing board, there's only the Creator and the desire to receive. And He created just one desire to receive. Okay? In the holy books, if you like it so much, it's called Adam. Alright? So He created just this guy called Adam. And Eve was a part of Adam. So all of us are a part of this one desire to receive. All of us. Regardless of the fact that today I have, 8 billion cells in my body, let's say. And tomorrow, let's say I'm going to be sick, God forbid, and some of the cells in my body died because I'm going through some trauma. Okay, let's say, so tomorrow I have 7.3 billion cells because I'm feeling a little sick and my body is weaker, so some of the cells have kind of died off. Okay, but is it still one me? Yes, it's still one me. But, so I've got a few 100 million less cells today. Okay, so I have more facial hair, I got extra beard. Okay, as I'm growing older, I'm getting more hairy, I don't know why. But my head's getting bald. Okay, but it's still just one me. Okay, and that's how it is with the soul as well. It's not a matter of how many cells in my body. We're talking about here a quality. Okay, a quality that each and every one has that is a part of one thing. One body, let's say. So, for example, in my body I have liver, kidney, lungs, heart, brain, hands, legs, fingers, everything. All of the parts of my body, okay, even though some organs are more important than the others, all of them, when they come together, they make one perfect body. And this is how it is with humanity as well. Okay? So even though, God forbid, somebody might have a hand missing or leg missing, it doesn't mean obviously he's got something missing in his soul. I'm just giving you the concept here that the matter of soul is not about numbers. The matter of soul is about our growing egoism and how that egoism is covering our desire to receive, or growing with our desire to receive, and how we need to kind of fix it up. So the more population we have is actually a good thing, because the more souls, the more people there are, it means that this one soul has that many parts, but everybody has a little part to correct. Okay? But that little part to correct means a part of the desire to receive. Okay? So don't think of it like a number. Think of it as one soul which has a lot of desires in it, a lot of details in it, and it's like, billions of pieces, just like our body is.
We talked about the war between the plus and the minus, the egg and the sperm that need to war and finally get together. It's a big battle. So here we have this huge burden, this ego that we have to finally correct. So the more people that there are in the world, the load or the burden is divided upon that. Each person has his own little, and if there was less people, say, for example, then it would be very difficult.
Let's say for the sake of argument, God forbid, that Third World War started. And instead of 8 billion people on the planet, let's say there's 800,000 left. Okay? That 800,000 people will need to be under so much more pressure than the 8 billion in order to correct their egos. Okay? Because they have a bigger burden now. So all of us now, as 8 billion people, can carry, let's say, half a kilogram, okay, let's say 100 grams each, to correct ourselves. If it's less, think of it like each one of us has to carry 800 kilograms. Okay?
And the more you start discovering, doing the science on yourself, and the more you start seeing what the ego actually is, and really seeing this monster that it is inside of you. No, not that it's a monster and it's scary and that it's bad, but just that it's very powerful. Even the small little piece that you're carrying is you can barely handle it. Then you can really understand the intensity of what it is that we're talking about here. This huge desire that's been split up. So, kind of on the same topic, Louisa from the UK saying, talking about staying holy. When I study the Zohar, do I need to stay holy, as in stop drinking or anything like that?
What's that got to do with it? What's that got to do with it? No,
well, we're talking about, a person feels himself like very like bad.
Okay, no, guys, listen, guys, please. We're talking about changing one thing. Okay, a Kabbalist will not tell you what to do. You kind of have to start feeling this out. Okay, you have to suss it out. So you begin to study a certain book now. Okay, and you think that it's holy for you. It's only holy if you can take holiness out of it. And what is holiness? It means that I have the attribute of the Creator that I learned and I've attained it and I got it from that book. Then that book is holy. Other than that, it's just a piece of paper. Okay, so let's be pragmatic here. When you're studying the Zohar, obviously, you should study it how you feel is right for you. Just start to study and then you'll see that you begin to change, and then what you thought was right yesterday is going to be different for today, and then you're going to make an adjustment here, make an adjustment there, and then maybe you're going to go back to what you did in the first place, thinking, well, that was right, and I think now what I'm doing is wrong. So don't get yourself confused with any of the things, all right? It's a good question, nice question, but in Kabbalah we don't tell people to do things in corporeality like they do in religion. Okay? In Kabbalah, there's only one thing. For a person who wants to study, we say, listen, if you want to study, come study with us like we're studying. And if you like what you're studying, if you like being here with us, then we'll carry on, And then you'll see that you'll begin to change inside, and then you'll begin to make those decisions and things according to how the power of that study is influencing you. It's a nice question. A lot of people ask, so what should I do? Should I change the way I behave? It's a good question. But come to the study first. Let's study first, and then you'll see that change comes from within, not from us telling you what to do, but it comes from your inner change. Right, what else? You got 15 minutes.
So we might get through all the questions then. So Jose Carlos from Spain is saying, again, to the religion, how do you explain to other people then from other religions that Kabbalah has nothing to do with Judaism or other religions? If you work with Christian people, how do you tell them about Kabbalah?
We don't. Not unless they're here. I mean, you're here. You're from Spain, so I don't know. What's your religion? Who's
Jose Carlos from Spain.
Jose Carlos from Spain. So you're here studying with us, right? So I guess from Spain, you're probably Catholic, right? If I'm not mistaken, Spain is generally like that. So I'm telling you right now, because you're here with your dot in the heart, that this is how it is. But I'm not going outside to the outside world and telling people there anything about Kabbalah, simply because they don't have ears to hear it. Right now I'm comfortable telling you about it because you have a dot in the heart. You already probably understand that it's just gas, this thing called religion. It's gas, okay? And it smells bad too, okay? So I think we've all been through the loop. So talking about it to people who come to study Kabbalah is not a problem. To talk about it, to explain to people out there on the street is not our job. We're not missionaries. We don't discuss it with people on the outside. We don't tell them anything about Kabbalah. We only teach those who come to learn Kabbalah. That's very important, because a person needs to have the dot in the heart. If he doesn't, he'll just go nuts after we explain to him that everything he's been doing in his past with the religious rituals to go to somewhere after he dies called La La Land is just not going to happen. Okay, if you tell that to a person, it's really bad, because imagine a guy 60, 70 years old, he's been doing his religious duties very diligently, and he believes he's going to go to heaven when he dies. So he's 60, 70 years old, and all of a sudden you come up to him and say, hey, everything you've done is just a big minus in your budget, man. You're not going anywhere. It's not a nice thing to say to people. So we don't do that. Okay, this is only a topic between us.
And so how do you know then? How do you know if he has a point in the heart or not? You don't. You don't necessarily know. So what do we recommend? I don't think we've mentioned it in this class actually, but it's something that we should have a long time ago.
Recommend what?
Well, we get yourself a library. Buy yourself some books for the home. You can go to kabbalahbooks.info. You can buy a bunch of books and keep them at your house. And then if you think that someone's interested, you just hand them a book. You don't need to talk about it. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to regurgitate everything that you heard on the lessons here. You just take the book, and if he's interested, if you think that he's interested, you tell him you can read the book, and then you can politely and easily, lightly, kindly give him some. There you go. Kabbalahbooks.info. Plenty of books to choose from. And a lot of them, there's two different types of books. There's source books, which we have here on the table. We have the social writings, for example. This is what Rabash gave us. And then we have Kabbalah for the Student, which is considered also a textbook. Here you go, zoom that in. So the top left book, that's the Rabash writings. Those are what we call textbooks. Now, you wouldn't want to give that book to someone on the street. Here, you see self-interest versus altruism. That book is going to explain to a person the evolution of humanity and where we are today. And then right next to it, you have Shamati, and then then you have some social writings there, and then also some Ticha, the Introduction to the Wisdom of Kabbalah. All those books. So this is a textbook, for example. That's a book that you wouldn't want to give someone on the street, because that's talking already about spirituality. This is for a person who's already in a society and understands how to work with something. Oh, there's a book. Go to the Attaining the Worlds Beyond. Yes. Left and down. This book, this is one of the greatest books ever written. This is one of Rav's first books that he wrote, translated from Russian to Hebrew and now to English. This is a very special book, and we always get a lot of new students come from reading this book or hearing the audio tape version of it. Anyways, so these are the kind of books. That's not a textbook. It's like a light what is Kabbalah book. So those are the kind of books you want to have in your library. If you think someone's interested, give them a book like that. Tell him to keep it and pass it on if he wants to. So that's very important. So we have a question about dreams. What does Kabbalah say about dreams? I've been dreaming about snakes for the past 4 years now, or consecutive now for 3 or 4 days. It's really bothering. Does that mean anything? Does Kabbalah say anything about dreams?
Well, we're not in the business of interpreting dreams. We're in the business of attaining the attributes of the Creator. Dreaming is basically a way where the brain kind of categorizes everything that we go through, kind of stacks it up in our brain, kind of organizes it so that we don't go crazy. Because why? We're going through a lot of things throughout our lives. What the mind does is kind of settle things down when we're in our sleep. This is why we have a subconscious. Okay, dreaming is also a way where we can kind of clarify the mind. Kind of, how should I say? It's like a database. Okay, where the brain just kind of organizes things in shelves. So we're going through a lot of things in life, and it kind of organizes things in a more organized way in our brain. Dreams are just animate level things. This is why dogs dream as well. Cats, dogs, animals also dream. So if you've got a dog or whatever, when they're sleeping, you'll note that they do dream as well. Why? Because the body needs to kind of like organize everything it's going through so that after we wake up, we can just kind of like a reformat. Okay, it's like
disk format. Yes, that's a good example. Like on computers, how computers put memory on a disk and it makes it's all fragmented, and then you want to clean it up and it puts it in its correct space so it can function correctly. That's a good example.
So don't worry about dreaming too much. I'd worry more about the studying, so you can attain more through the wisdom, through the books and the wisdom, so you can kind of like get your foundations right.
So everything we do is infused. I think this comes from Tatiana, but it doesn't say. Everything we do is infused with energy. If we're frantic, then life will be frantic. If we're peaceful, then life will be peaceful. And so is our goal in any situation to find inner peace?
Inner peace means, well, look, obviously inner peace is what we want to come to. Okay, that's for sure. Because that's also the attribute of the Creator. Right? The Creator is all tranquil. Okay, it's a sign of perfection. Peaceful meaning that, peaceful means that I'm in perfection. It doesn't mean that I've got peace and quiet in my life. So coming to that final point of attainment, the final point of correction, where I'm completely free of my egoism and I have full control of all my desires and I'm using them all in order to bestow, is called tranquility and peace. Okay? So we're talking about that kind of peace, not the kind of peace where, like I'm feeling good and that's it kind of thing. Yeah.
So Bright from Ghana says, in previous lessons we learned that if a person who pursues spirituality is deviated in some way, then the Creator gives them a hard push upwards from behind, and we feel it as suffering. So how can a person recover from that suffering if the suffering is in the form of a loss of a money or job, or mankind needs these kinds of things to exist? How are they supposed to handle that?
Everything that happens to incorporeality, okay, you need to take care of it like you would if you were not studying Kabbalah. Okay? Although, yes, everything does come from the Creator, you need to convince yourself that you need to solve all your problems as best you can in this world as it is required according to how things work in this world. All right? So according to all the laws, according to all the principles of society, I have to make a living, look after myself, I have to live in a certain way, right? According to society. This I need to do as best I can. No running away from it. It's a part of our correction as well, so we don't have to run away from it. This is why as Kabbalists we don't go up onto the mountains into some monastery. We could have easily done that. But it's not the right way to develop. The right way to develop is to be right in the middle of everything, inside society. You live with humanity, you work like them, you make a living like them, you have a family like them, you have a life just like them. But on top of that, you have spirituality as well. So you can understand this whole mess that we're all in. Okay? So this is very important. So all the things, you need to do your best, okay? But you need to also understand that all the problems that comes to a person is in order to strengthen him on the way, not to throw him out of the road, or not to throw him out of the path, let's say. The Creator doesn't want to throw us out of the wisdom of Kabbalah. Why bring us in the first place if you're going to kick us out? Okay? So he wants us to grow. And he wants us to give importance where it is needed. And so he brings us a few problems so we can go above those problems. So we can learn to live above them, take care of them, but give importance where it's needed. Okay? These things happen to people out there on the street as well, those who are not studying Kabbalah. Okay? And they happen to us as well. We're not any different. So sometimes we're unemployed, sometimes it's a problem, sometimes we have a health issue. Yeah, these things happen and we need to take care of them. So with those things, be pragmatic, do your best, and on the other hand though, keep studying as best you can. Yeah.
So we're going to head over to some of the Facebook questions and try to knock them out. They're good questions. Friends, help me. What is dvekut?
Dvekut means adhesion with the Creator. Adhesion with the Creator means that I have attained His attributes of love and bestowal. That's what it means.
Does something have to be given to me in order to attain it?
You need to earn it. Just like in this world, you need to earn money to eat, right? In spirituality, you need to earn your spirituality. You need to build your greatness. Yeah.
Can someone help me understand the Kabbalist view on the practice of black magic or sorcery or witchcraft or idol worship?
Waste of time, really. It's what kids deal with. They cut up chickens and put their blood on doors and stuff, thinking something's going to happen. All right, guys, come on. Okay? Let's take ourselves above this level of child's play. I have never seen anyone do black magic. And I lived on 4 continents, traveled the world probably 3-4 times over. Been from here to Timbuktu. Trust me, I've seen a lot of weird people. There's no black magic. There's nothing mystic about life. Man would love to believe in these things. He would love it if he had some kind of supernatural power beyond the laws of nature, like being Superman. But that is a fantasy, and so is this. Anything else?
Sure. Do our thoughts belong to the spiritual world? Is there a connection between the two?
Our thoughts are a consequence of spiritual reality. They're because of roots and branches, and this would have kind of been covered in the perception of reality. Everything that happens in this reality is a consequence of the causes that are happening in a spiritual reality, which we shall discover when we ascend there.
Does the upper world contain an intention to bestow?
It is the only intention it contains.
Is the thought of the Creator manifested in numerous ways?
The thought of the Creator is manifested in numerous ways, but only to be unified as one at the end of correction. This is why we have many conflicting thoughts, many conflicting events which we cannot reconcile. However, everything that happens, even though unreconcilable to us, come from a single thought of doing good to all the creatures in the world in order to bring them to perfection.
So, basically with that, there's just a couple of more comments about wanting to meet up maybe physically with a group in South Africa, or wherever you are. You're saying, when can I meet up? What can I do? And what do we advise them?
Right now, what we would advise is stick with us. Okay, let's get through this first semester first of all. Let's start moving on to the second semester. And then what we're going to do is I know you want to meet and you want to be with people and everything, but without a real center, I don't think there's a center in South Africa, is there?
A center, no, but I know that they are physically meeting up every once in a while.
So what we might want to do is, let's first get through this semester over and done with, start with the second semester, and then we'll see how things progress. Because what we want to do is, we do have friends around the world, and there are some cities have centers, some people don't, and some places don't have centers. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to kind of like meet together in the virtual environment first, okay, get to meet in the virtual environment, and then test the waters and see how we go for a physical meeting. You don't want to rush these things. We want to take it one step at a time. The reason for that is we want everyone to have some kind of a base and foundation. And then when you guys meet together, then everybody has this common ground.
Which is really great why it's great to come to congresses, which is why we even push coming to congresses, or we offer coming to congresses even after the first semester. Here it is again, a little nice little banner, because there it's not really necessarily group work. You don't have to have a lot of the training. You're really just receiving this impression from such an intensity of all these people coming together. We also, I think Johnny sent a link in the bottom for more details. You guys are asking for more details. We have kind of a document. It hasn't made it to a page yet, but it just provides a little bit more information. So maybe Johnny, you can send that link again, and you guys can kind of see a little bit more information about what it is if you're interested. And if you search Kabbalah Convention or something on YouTube, I'm sure there's a lot of video clips and stuff that you can see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see a lot of impressions.
So if you have an opportunity, definitely come to a congress. You'll get a lot out of it. Yeah. That's about it?
We did it all.
Okay, great. That's lovely jubbly. Now, with respect to the second semester, we are carrying on non-stop, okay? And the reason for that is if you stop, you begin to feel what? You begin to feel a bit empty. So you won't progress if you don't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to carry on next week with the second semester. And you'll be here.
We'll be here.
Yeah, I'll be here, God willing. Chris will be here. And we'll start some new topics. What we'll do also in the interim is see if we can integrate this software called Zoom so we can now in the second semester see each other. Okay? And I'm going to ask the guys who are responsible for the Education Center for Africa and Europe. The reason we haven't done that before is because sometimes internet connection in Africa is not very good. Okay, and we don't want to kind of leave parts of the group out and parts of the group in, because some people can't even get a visual. They're just listening the broadcast on a voice level without really seeing us due to the good quality of internet. So we're going to check this out. And the whole idea of spirituality is all of us being together. Okay, so I'm not going to take any steps to kind of segregate the group if the internet connection is not good. If the internet connection is not good in Africa and some of the friends can't kind of join Zoom because they're freezing and so on the screen, we will carry on as we are doing it right now. Okay, and we will add to our foundations, and accordingly what we'll do towards the end of the second semester is find an alternative where we can start to meet virtually and be together virtually, and then we'll see how things go. Okay.
So to answer your question, John from Chicago, will you have access to the first semester videos? Definitely. I think they're all even archived on YouTube somewhere. Maybe Hezi, if you know where they're all archived. And I know there's an archive on the education website itself and also on YouTube somewhere else. And you'll definitely should have access to all those. But yes, we do want to try. It's still kind of we're still a little bit new with the Zoom thing. We've only done it, I think, for maybe a year or so. And when it's bad connections, it really kind of takes away from the lesson. And so we don't want to ruin that with you guys.
Absolutely. So guys, hopefully next Tuesday, same time, same place. Now I hope we've got a lot of the stuff covered now. Okay, so next semester we should be starting with a clean plate about what the wisdom of Kabbalah is, how we study it, where our freedom of choice is, how I perceive reality, how I need to take care of myself in this world and carry on studying Kabbalah. All these concepts need to now be stable. Okay? So I'm giving you guys heads up, second semester. I don't want to hear anything about, well, what's Kabbalah? Okay? Because we covered all that now. Next semester we have to move to new stuff and build the first floor, okay, in our study. So the foundations, okay, are pretty much over now. And on top of this, we're going to build, the first floor. All right, so please.
We want to get practical.
Yeah, we're going to get practical, and we'll take things forward from there. So
and if you don't have this book, and if you haven't seen this book, haven't heard about this book, we have it online. You can also get it if you'd like. We'll definitely be taking articles from here and learning about them as well. Okay, exactly. We didn't touch this book this semester, I don't believe.
We will. Okay, I'll put a program I'll send a program to the Education Center, what we're going to do. And we're going to do another 10 lessons, and we're going to add to what we know. In the interim, if there's any topic that you haven't really understood, haven't got your head around or whatever, okay, I'm not telling you to delete it or anything. Still post it on Facebook, okay, so we'll cover them. I don't want you guys having any questions out there, mind-boggling yourselves or confusing yourselves. Okay, so if you have got questions, bring them up, no big deal. But what I would like, just like in any school, if we want to advance in a topic, that these 8 topics that we covered now should now start to be stable in you. And we should only have a few pops here and there about the details of how to apply it. But the concepts should now be solid. All right? And if there's still any dramas, not a problem. Okay? You can still ask, but I'm just telling you where we should be at. Okay? Now then, until Tuesday, all the best. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.